Hello, I'm Brigantia Blackbird of Blackbird's Brew. Happy Saturday and welcome to the latest Loki video. And in this one I'm going to be talking about a rather peculiar blessing that Loki recently brought to my attention. I never know what he might, needle my subconscious mind with during meditations, and this one did catch me a little bit off guard. Now, if you happen to catch my first video on the Pagan Housewife series, one in which I talked about my experience recently with jury duty and, just kind of the things that came up in my mind about it and the importance of standing up in our society, even if it's not in a big way or in a huge way, but just making sure that you're there and you're counted and that if you think that something isn't right, you say so. And I was meditating later that evening, and Loki just gave me this little nudge, and it got me to thinking about, the strength of character that's required to stand up when no one else is really doing so. Not definitely not the majority, or when standing up when something isn't popular, or even standing up to people who are your friends, and sometimes just saying, look, this is how it is, and it is what it is. I'm not going to pretend that reality is something that it isn't. He just gave me that nudge that I had a lot to thank my parents for that. I had a lot to thank for my upbringing. Now, if you're familiar with this channel, you will be aware that my parents are Jehovah's Witnesses, and that I was essentially born into that religion, fourth generation on mother's side, third generation on my father's side. There was a lot of pressure. It was a very highly controlling, highly conformative kind of group. So you wouldn't think that I would be thanking anything having to do with that or anyone associated with that organization for teaching me that core inner strength to stand up when it's not popular. However, in a weird sort of way, it did. Now, I want to make it clear, my parents definitely did not teach me to stand up against their own organization. Definitely not. They would have probably vastly preferred if I would have stayed in with that, because it's what they believe, and they honestly do believe it's right, no matter how misguided that belief might be. So they didn't teach me to stand up against that, but what they did teach me was to not being afraid of being publicly seen of doing something that was out of the ordinary. Because one of the trademarks of the Jehovah's Witness religion is going out of a morning, usually on Saturdays, when people just want to relax and be left alone, but instead, hello, Jehovah's Witnesses calling, and would you like to talk about the Bible instead? Definitely not a normal activity for most human beings to be engaged with. Definitely not something that is smiled upon or encouraged in broader society. It made me different from all the kids at school. It made me even different from other kids in the congregation, because not every Jehovah's Witness family is as devout or as committed as the next. And so coming from a family in which that was just part of the weekly routine, this is just something that you did, it taught me that you aren't always going to fit in. You aren't always going to be able to just go along with the crowd, do what everyone else is doing. You aren't always going to be able to just say, oh, well, it's popular, it's what everyone else is doing, and so that's good enough for me. It taught me about how to swim against the current of society, a very big society, I might add, because Jehovah's Witnesses, they don't only just believe that Christianity is the one true religion. They think their particular denomination is the one true religion and that everything else is corrupt. I mean, they honestly believe that. So there really wasn't a really large community that I could find common cause with, or say that, oh, we agree, we're allies, I feel like I belong, I feel like I fit in with you. I just did not have that. I was always sticking out like a sore thumb. Then you add on to the fact that I was always a tall girl, so I stood out like a sore thumb anyway. Um, it put me into a habit. It put me into a habit of, I'm not going to be like everyone else. I am not going to just sit quietly at the sidelines. I'm not someone, it wasn't simply acceptable to silently disagree, do my own thing in the shadows, and not stand up. I was required to stand up for the beliefs that I was taught. So, in a weird, twisted kind of way, the fact that I am now able to have this channel and speak openly on certain subjects that other people prefer not to discuss in public, the reason why I will wade into controversial waters, the reason why I'm not afraid to say what I think, even if it is going to offend someone, even if it's going to hurt their feelings, even though, the goal isn't to hurt their feelings, the goal is simply to be honest. The reason why I can do all that is because that's the kind of person my parents raised me to believe. They taught me that how you live your life, what you believe, it's an action verb. It's nothing passive. You say you believe something, you better be walking the talk. They certainly taught me to walk the talk for the Jehovah's Witness religion. And even though that's not what I stuck with, and it's not something I agree with, it did give me the strength of character to say, you know what, I'm going to walk my talk with my religion. I don't care who knows that I'm Wiccan. I don't care who dislikes pagans or who dislikes witches and, will never approve of anything I'm doing or take me seriously. It doesn't matter. It does not matter because it's not about them. It's about living in a manner that accords with my conscience. It's the same kind of spine and backbone that says, well, I'm going into a courtroom, and if they ask me to ignore the Constitution, I'm going to make it clear I'm not going to do that. I don't care if you arrest me. I don't care if I'm subject to legal harassment act. I don't care about the consequences, because those consequences will be less awful than not being able to have a clean conscience. That is essentially the values I was taught, even though it's not being applied in the setting that I was raised in. And once Loki got me to thinking about that, got it. Yes, it does make me feel more thankful to my parents, because I didn't realize that was a gift that they had given me. If anything, you would think that most people who came out of a Jehovah's Witness upbringing would not be thanking their parents for any aspect of that upbringing. Of it, you really did me a favor by raising me in that cult. Goody for you. And before this point, I always considered kind of the silver lining of having had that experience in my childhood is that I can understand and identify collectivistic type of thinking very, very readily. It means that I can understand that, if someone has this underlying philosophical premise, then it's already inherently corrupt. It's not something that I want to be a part of. It's something that is detrimental to the human spirit. It's something that's self-destructive for someone's lives. I can identify that. And I always saw that more so as, I could turn, those lemons into a lemonade. I didn't realize, until just now, really, that in the midst of all of that lemonade, that my parents actually gave me something that was worthwhile in and of itself, something that I didn't really need to change, something I just needed to learn how to channel and direct effectively in my own life. And, thank goodness. Thank goodness, because if I didn't have that, otherwise I might be one of those people who can never say what they're thinking. Someone who says, oh, well, it's just not worth it. Maybe if I'm just quiet, I won't lose these relationships. Maybe if I'm not really honest, maybe it's enough just to think what I think, and maybe I don't have to take action. I could have been one of those people, but instead I'm someone who isn't just, life isn't just happening to me. I'm seeking to actively participate in it in any way that I can. I see problems in my society, and I'm trying to do my part. However small that part ultimately is, I'm just trying to stand up and try to be part of the solution for it. I'm trying to put forth better ideas. And in a way that whether or not anyone finds me persuasive or even gives me the time of the day, that really is a side issue. Just having the strength of character to do that to begin with is a debt that I do owe to my parents, and that is something worthwhile and is going to probably serve me well in the future. Now, is it going to get me into trouble? Almost certainly. But again, my patron god is Loki. The idea that I would be going forth in life with the intention of trying to avoid trouble, well, that's not really part of the deal, is it? Uh, Whatever you might say about Loki, whether you think that his mischief and troublemaking served a greater purpose or not, you can't deny that he was certainly a pot stirrer, and I don't really think that's changed. Kind of stirred my own personal pot when he said, you really need to be a little bit more thankful for your mom and dad. They did right by you. They gave you something that you probably wouldn't have had if they had raised you any other way. And as per usual, he's right. We learn lessons in life sometimes in funny little ways, don't we? But that is really one of the takeaways that I have for me for this week, and it's something that I think I might need to be a little bit more vocal about. That just, despite all the drawbacks that I had in my childhood, is that there were some pretty significant um, advantages to it, and certainly one of which was to stand up and be counted, act out my beliefs, to not be afraid of what other people think of it or whether or not it's popular, to not let other people's opinions and preferences or threat of consequences determine my actions. So Thanks, Mom and Dad, and thank you, Loki, for making me realize this on a conscious level. I am appreciative of it. So that's what I've got to say for this particular week. If you would like to come and discuss this matter further, or just try and talk about paganism, witchcraft, Wicca, whatever, just in general, please come visit me at Blackbird's Brew. We're on Discord. There's a link to join in the description box below. And of course, as always, subscribe to this channel, leave a comment, like the video. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.